Hey everybody, this is Kirsten here. Welcome back to the Balanced Vibes podcast. Today's episode is more like a mindset episode, I would call it. Although I don't love the word mindset a whole lot because what is it even, right? It can be a very confusing term, but I don't know what else to call this type of episode either. So let's call it the mindset episode. And it doesn't have a whole lot to do with nutrition training and all that, but it is more like about how your mind works, how your brain works, and why is this important? Because this is how you can make your life better. Just put it very broadly. You can have more happiness, more joy, and more ease and more satisfaction with your life. And everything really starts in your mind, everything starts in your brain. And I'm going to talk about several things today that I have learned myself personally going through this journey and what I have discovered in the past several years, reading some books, working with a coach, sometimes coaches, and what has helped me a little bit. And while I'm talking about this stuff, please know that I don't have my shit together myself either. So this is not me telling you that, oh, do this and do that. I know exactly how this works, or hire me as your life coach, because I'm not your life coach. But I want to share with you the things that have been like freaking eye-opening to me, that have really made a difference in my life, and that I really practice as frequently as I am able to, which really should be all of the time, to get better results in my life. And when I say better results, I don't only mean like business or money or that kind of stuff. This is really just secondary. What I mean, as the first thing, is like how I feel about myself, like how I feel about myself in this world. Because I've had so many struggles myself personally to, and all the struggles, they really do start in your mind. I am a really big believer in the power of mind, and that's why I'm quite interested in brain science too. I'm not a brain scientist, right? So there's a definitely difference between something like academic like that. But what I am saying is, like, I'm reading books, I'm listening to people who talk about that stuff, who are talking about your different parts of your brain. What role does your amygdala and your prefrontal cortex play in how you think and behave and all that? So I like that stuff, and it's really fascinating to me. And it's really cool to see how working with your brain directly and working with your mind can make an impact in your life. But a lot of the things that I'm going to share with you today, not a lot of them, all of them, you have to practice regularly if you want to feel better about yourself, and therefore have just better life, more success, more happiness, and all that cool stuff. So I'm going to share these things today with you today, and hope that you get some value out of it. And as I'm talking to you, honestly, I'm also coaching myself through this stuff again and again and again, because I'm working on these things. I am reminding myself of these things constantly, because for me, it's like easy to kind of see how, Kirsten, you've been going to the gym for how many years, and you didn't build that body on day one. So why do you think that your brain starts behaving differently if you do it for one day? No, this has to be done just like you go do your squats. So for me, this really helps me to kind of stick with it, even on days when I feel like, oh my God, this like repetitive brain mindset work is the fucking last thing that I want to do, which was the case this morning. So I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm always totally honest with you. So I'm going to share some of the tips that I have learned recently, like I promised. All right. So the first concept that I want to talk about is something that is called reticular activating system. And so it may sound like, what the hell that is, even it sounds like crazy. So this is basically, just to make it really simple, it's this idea that you see what you want to see. So you kind of put a filter inside your brain and tell your brain what you want to see more of, and you start getting more of that thing. So Mel Robbins, in her book, The High Five Habit, which I super highly recommend, it's a great book. She gives this example of, like, if you want to buy a red Accord. So you never had this thought before, and you never saw these cars anywhere around you. But now when you get this idea, oh, this is a cool car, I want to get one, then all of a sudden they start showing up everywhere you go, right? Oh, there's a red Accord. There's another one. There's another one. So you start seeing it because you are priming your mind to see these cars. And that's why I think, oh, where were they before? Where they were there all the time. It just was not important to you. So now, how does this work? How does this idea help you? It helps you in a way that you can program your brain to experience the things that you want to experience, right? So, for example, if you are often like you're having aches and pains, or like body doesn't feel right and you feel so bad and you're so tired and all that, you can start thinking, I want to see a positive signs of me being totally healthy. So what are the things that I can see? Okay, and then you start noticing, you're priming your brain, you're telling your brain what you want to see, and it starts finding these things. So it starts finding evidence, right? And you can start writing these things down. I went for a walk today, lifted some weights today. I did some stretching today. It felt really good. Oh, my body feels vibrant. My body feels energized. You can do the same thing with money, for example. I'm going to give you a great example. So I started doing this, and this is kind of a funny one. But I started doing this thing in March 2022, I think, when I listened to this course on how to get more money. And one of the ideas was there, start thinking about finding money everywhere. Just set your brain up in a way that you start finding money everywhere. And guess what happened? I started finding money everywhere. And I'm not talking about $100 bills or something like that, but I will show you. If you watch this video, I'll show you. This bowl here is full of change. Look at that. So this is what I have found in about 1.5 years. And it's not only change. I also have like literal like $10 bills here. I have some ones, I have some fives. I have a half of a 20, just a half. And then a whole bunch of change. So look at that. So this bowl is freaking heavy. And it started happening literally when I primed my brain that I want to find money on the ground. And to this day, I can guarantee you, especially when I'm feeling like energetically very aligned and kind of like, I'm feeling good about myself, I find money. I know this. I go outside, I find money. So we're not talking about, the point of this is not like I became a millionaire, right? But the point is like you can start seeing the things that you want to see. So somebody that I listened to a while ago, he used to always say, don't ask like, why do I feel like shit all the time? Start asking, why do I feel so amazing all the time? So this is actually the same thing. So when you start asking yourself, why do I feel so amazing all the time? You start finding evidence that you really feel amazing all the time. And over time, what that does, it really primes, it kind of creates this like expectation and positivity in you and in your mind, and you become a more positive person who sees the good stuff. And when you see the good stuff, you are in your mind, you're more like hopeful, you are more like excited, you are more positive overall, and you just almost like you attract better things. And when you think about it, if you've ever heard about the law of attraction, it's not hard to see how this works, right? So law of attraction basically says, and I know that for many of you, it may sound like total woo-woo, but it does work. So if you focus your attention lightly on something, you can't be forceful with it, but if you focus your attention lightly on something and you feel the presence of this thing and you want to experience this thing, it will in some shape or form show up in your life. And it's actually the same thing because you put your attention to this thing. Now, if you set your reticular activating system up in the opposite way, then it's going to harm you. And this is exactly where I personally have struggled for so many years. You want to see evidence of like how nobody likes you. That was me so many years, right? Nobody likes me. And I struggled with this for many, many years. I was even at the point where I wouldn't look people in their eye because I assumed that nobody likes me and I'm super weird. Like literally, it's kind of embarrassing to talk about it, but whatever. I told you I'm honest with you. So I had this for so many years. There's this strong belief that there's something wrong with my looks. There's something wrong in the way I'm talking. There's something wrong with my language. I'm so insecure that people can see like miles away. I had all these thoughts, and what I attracted towards myself all the time was more experience of how people don't like me. So I would, for example, think, oh, this person looked at me and then they turned away. That's because they don't like me. Or this person doesn't respond to my text immediately because he doesn't like me. You can find so much evidence for everything you want. Even take something as simple as you want something to be true and you go and Google it. Of course you find evidence, but you also find evidence for the counter of that, right? If you want the opposite of that to be true, you find evidence for that as well. So literally you get what you were looking for. And I'm telling you, I'm coaching myself right now. Kirsten, get your mind more towards the things that you want to see. Start seeing opportunities, right? Don't see obstacles. Actually, I already gave you away one of my next points, but it really is about like what you put in your mind. What do you want to experience? You get more of that stuff because of this magical thing called reticular activating system. So get really careful with what you want to get. Ask for good things, set your brain up for positivity, and you will get more of that. If you do the opposite, you get more of the opposite. I have seen this way too many times in myself. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to mention is to understand your patterns, where your brain goes naturally. So this is a big one. And honestly, this was a big revelation just recently when I was talking to my own coach, and it makes me like tear up a little bit because it was really powerful. And it really clicked for me literally like 2 minutes before our time was up for that coaching session. And what we essentially talked about was that all this negativity in our minds, all these like stories, negative stories that we have about ourselves are just a bully in your mind, because the true you, the purest, cleanest form of you is not that person, right? So for example, what are we thinking about? A lot of people are, I'm ugly, I'm not successful enough, I'm not pretty enough, I don't have enough money, I'm not good enough of a mom, I'm not good enough of a friend, look at me, I fail all the time, this and that, and third and fourth. And I will never, so that's another thing, I'm never going to be successful. I'm never going to be, I don't know, beautiful, whatever the things are. I'm never going to be able to lose weight, if you want to put this into the context of this podcast, right? I'm never going to be athletic. I'm never going to be able to lose weight. I'm never, 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 never. So these thoughts are actually just bullshit that has been put into your brain as a result of your past experiences, people in your past, and how these patterns and experiences or these experiences have created a pattern in your mind. So you have to be able to separate yourself, like your true self, from this bullshit pattern in your mind. And I've heard this message so many times in my life, but for some reason it truly clicked only recently, because I learned that then I can also relearn these patterns. I don't have to listen to these patterns. And as my coach Jim says, he says that consider these patterns a bully. They're a bully. They're here to bully you. They are trying to grab your attention and make you do things a certain way. And you don't have to listen to this, because the true you, the true self, or your highest self, or whatever you want to call it, is not like that. So the true self, the highest self, is different. It's like, it's perfect. It's perfect. Like, you are perfect. It sounds like crazy talk again. Whatever. I don't care. I'm going to say you are perfect the way you are. It's just these thought patterns in your mind that are dragging you in this opposite direction. And when you believe these things and repeatedly tell yourself these things, I bet my money on it, let these like get into your brain and take action according to them. So for example, if you believe that I'm never going to get in shape anyway, you're not going to go to the gym. I'm never going to be eating healthy anyway. You're going to make that bad food choice. If you're going to say, I'm never going to be successful anyway, why put out this podcast? Nobody's listening. Why would I do this? Well, this is going to be the result. The result is going to be, I'm not going to put that podcast out there. I'm not going to eat better things. Then I'm not going to go gym. And then you're going to get the result. And you are essentially agreeing with the bully. And now the bully is there and it did what he wanted and it grabbed your attention. And the true self, or the higher self, who is actually perfect, was, it cannot come out. It cannot come out and shine, right? So you have to, I don't know, this was like a big one for me, because I learned that I can literally start telling this voice that is telling me that I'm not good enough, I'm not this and that. I can literally tell, like, shut up. I'm not going to listen to it. I'm going to go and do the opposite thing. So if my voice would be like, nah, why would you record this podcast? Like, I'm only like so many listeners. Nobody really cares. Nobody's commented in a long time. Nah, don't do it. Then I let the bully win. And I don't want that. I don't want that. So now I'm like, no, I'm going to stand up against it. I'm going to do the thing that I think is valuable. I'm going to do it anyway. It's going to make me feel better because I'm doing something useful instead of letting the bully win. So to me, this might be maybe the biggest ones, maybe because this is the newest one that it just literally clicked for me. And I'm like, oh, I can unlearn this. I can improve my life a lot. Okay. So the next point is to cheer yourself up. No one is coming to save you and you are responsible. So kind of like three things together, but you are responsible of your results. So like I said, everything you see around you too, this is a reflection of your mind. And this is really tough to admit. It was so tough for me to admit that, oh, I created this. I'm responsible for this. I don't want to be responsible for this. Who's going to come and save me now? And you know what? Nobody's coming to save. Nobody. So if you want some change, you have to be the one initiating that change and following through. So I want to read you a little bit from this book. It's Brian Tracy's A Proven System to Simplify Your Life, Double Your Productivity, and Achieve All Your Goals. So this is more like a business book, I would say, but it has really good life advice too in general. So I want to read a little bit about responsibility, what Brian Tracy has to say. And Brian Tracy is a really great author. Every time I feel like my confidence shaking or something, I go to Brian Tracy and read a little bit, and it really does help. So he says that if you're not happy with any part of your life, say, I am responsible, and get busy changing it. If something goes wrong, accept responsibility and begin looking for a solution. When you accept responsibility, you feel personally powerful. Accepting responsibility gives you a tremendous sense of control over yourself and your life. The more responsibility you accept, the more confidence and energy you have. The more responsibility you accept, the more capable and competent you feel. Accepting responsibility is the foundation of high self-esteem, self-respect, and personal pride. And one more thing, and this is super, super important. And again, I'm talking to a version of me too, like the bullet version, which is, on the other hand, when you make excuses, blame other people, complain, or criticize, you give your power away. You weaken yourself and your resolve. You turn over control of your emotions to the people and situations you are blaming or complaining about. Okay? So you do not escape responsibility by attempting to pass it off onto other people. You are still responsible. Okay, this is such a good stuff. And I think, it really helps to remind yourself of it, because then you're going to feel more empowered, just like he said too. Then it's like, oh, okay, I accept it now. What are we going to do about this? But if you don't accept it, you think that somebody else is going to come and save you, or you think that somebody has just like things better because they have better things or more things. And, oh, poor me, I'm just sitting here. That's not going to get you anywhere. So this personal responsibility is huge. And a little bit what I see a little bit in media, this like encouragement towards like victim mindset. And it really becomes clear when we say things like, oh, it's not your fault if your health is super poor. Well, in some cases, obviously if you have actual medical condition, but if we talk about just health problems that are caused by poor lifestyle, if we say that this is not your responsibility, you're just born this way, then we are just taking this power away from these people. Why don't we instead empower these people and say, hey, you can do this stuff. It is within your control. You just have to make better choices. It's all up to us. So I think this, like, you are responsible, no one is coming to save you. It can sound like, oh, that's so harsh, but it is true. It's super true. So what can you do to take more responsibility and just like feel better about yourself? So I would say one thing really is reading positive books, and read books that are kind of really hammering this idea into your head that you have the power. So I just mentioned The High Five Habit by Mel Robbins. Fantastic book. I really, really liked it. And one of the books that I read recently was David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me, I think it was the title. Now, I have to say that David Goggins' book is really extreme. So he is like an extreme level, Navy SEAL and athlete, and did very many absolute extreme things, right? Such as, I don't know, 4,000 pull-ups in 24 hours. And he ran like 100 miles on literally broken legs. So I think what he's doing is extreme. And I don't think that we have to copy that. But it just shows that actually you do create your own results, and with strong mind, you can get through so many things. And it's just super, super empowering. So you cannot read David Goggins' book and feel like disempowered, because if you see somebody with his past coming from where he was coming, from a very abusive family and all that stuff, and working himself up to the place where he is right now, it's absolutely incredible to read these stories. So it really is in our hands. We have to take control if we want to get better. Nobody's coming to save you. And also when I read Goggins' book, and also when I read The High Five Habit, I gotta say, I felt like high for full week afterwards. I felt so empowered. It's literally like what you read, what you consume gets into your brain and activates the parts of your brain that create that kind of give you more positivity. You just cannot see the victim mindset, and you cannot like identify with the poor me mindset anymore, because you've just let something so powerful into your brain. So that's why I so often say that, why are you still watching the news? There's just so much bullshit there that weakens you. So don't do that. Don't do that. So read, take in information that empowers you, that makes you feel strong, that makes you feel like I'm capable, I'm good enough, I can do this. More of that type of stuff. This is where really that personal growth happens. Personal growth does not come through like news that trying to scare you, and like 99% of the time with false information. This is not where it comes from. So be really selective with what you are taking in on a day-to-day basis. Okay. The next thing is start seeing opportunities, not obstacles. Okay, start seeing opportunities, not obstacles. Again, it's like your mind can go in either direction depending on how you are directing it. Like, what are you doing? So are you seeing problems everywhere? Like, oh, I can't do this because the weather is bad and there's nothing in the fridge right now, and I just feel like kind of tired, and I don't know, my left thigh is hurting a little bit from the last workout, so I'm not gonna make healthy choices today, so I'm just gonna sit here and do nothing. Or you can see the opportunities. You can see, okay, yeah, the weather is cold, well, I'm still going out for a walk because it will help my immune system. Cool. Walk out in the cold air, outside in the cold air a little bit. Awesome, right? There's nothing in the fridge. Oh, should I go to, I don't know, Chick-fil-A, like I talked about in one of my recent podcasts? Or could it be like, hey, how can I make a healthy choice? Look, I have some, I don't know, some canned tuna in the cabinet. I can make like a really simple tuna salad for myself. Like, try, find the opportunity, right? It's not an obstacle. Actually, it's an opportunity. Or you can put together a healthy recipe from some things that you still have in your cabinets, and now this is an opportunity to make something healthy for yourself. Or you can be like, I don't know, there's like so many examples where you could see the opportunity instead of seeing this as an obstacle, right? If you did like a crazy diet and then you are so mad at yourself, like, oh, why did I have to mess up my metabolism and hormones and poor me, and oh my God, I spent all this money and it was really bad, or really worthless program, and now I'm sick. Okay, let's turn this around and see the opportunity here. What is the opportunity? Well, I learned to never do a crazy diet anymore. I learned to never pay crazy amounts of money for unsustainable thing. So this is the lesson here. This is the opportunity. What's the next thing? So you wanna like flip things around, and you can do it in almost every situation, I think, seeing opportunities instead of obstacles. And now I also want to read, that really goes really well here. I want to read from the same book, Brian Tracy's book that I just mentioned before. There's a chapter called Think Like a Winner, a paragraph called Think Like a Winner. I think this goes really well here, where we're talking about opportunities versus obstacles. And he talks about optimism and positive mindset. So if you have more this optimistic mindset, you do see things as opportunities, right? There's no obstacles, there's opportunities. So what he's saying is this: over the years, thousands of successful people have been asked, what do you think about most of the time, right? So it's again the reticular activity system. What are you thinking about most of the time? Their answers tend to be the same worldwide. Successful people think about what they want and how to get it most of the time. As a result of this mental focus, they accomplish much more than the average person, even though they may have started with no particular advantages. And he goes on to say, unsuccessful people, on the other hand, tend to think and talk about what they don't want most of the time, right? See the opportunity versus obstacle. They think and talk about who they are mad at and who is to blame for their problems most of the time. They don't understand why their lives don't improve, even though they have been working as long as others. They slip into the habit of thinking and talking even more about their problems and who is to blame, thereby making the situation worse. Okay, so I would actually like to put the diet culture here too and talk about it in this context, because how often have we seen, yeah, the diet culture is really awful. Yeah, I agree. It is. It does a lot of harmful things, but can we go on forever and talk about how bad the diet culture is? Or can we change the story and be like, I'm not engaging in this conversation anymore. This is an obstacle. I'm going to see the opportunity here. So I'm not going to go on and on blaming the diet culture. It's not my business anymore. I know better now. I'm just not going to engage with this, okay? And then I want to talk about optimism too and read what friend Tracy had to say. Your level of optimism is the very best predictor of how happy, healthy, wealthy, and long-lived you will be. The more optimistic and positive you are, the more energy and enthusiasm you will have. Your immune system will be stronger and more resistant to disease and infection. You will seldom be sick. You will get along with less sleep, and you'll have more mental and physical energy throughout the day. Your determination to become a more optimistic person in every part of your life will do more to ensure your success and happiness than any other single quality you can develop. As a general rule, your job is to keep your thinking optimistic and positive most of the time. This can be difficult, at least initially. Oh yeah. But like any habit, you can develop it with repetition. What did we talk about going to the gym? Same thing. Got to do your squats. Got to practice optimistic thinking. And lastly, when you practice thinking and responding optimistically most of the time, this positive attitude soon becomes a conditioned response. You will eventually find yourself reacting and responding positively and optimistically all day long. I mean, wouldn't that be a wonderful thing, right? Still working on it myself too. Definitely, again, the pattern, the bullies are dragging you in one direction, but can you switch that? Can you start thinking more positive, even like almost like forcefully sometimes? Because if it doesn't come naturally, you gotta push it a little bit. You just have to do it if you want to think more positively, because like you said, one of the predictors of how successful you will be in your life is the level of positivity. And coming back to this original point, are we seeing obstacles or are we seeing opportunities? Okay. And the last point I want to make today that will make your life better and make you feel a lot better about yourself is showering yourself with positivity and love. Okay. So this was a huge thing in the High Five Habit book by Mel Robbins. Awesome. And I think that's why I felt like so freaking high entire week after reading it. So basically, the main concept of the book is very simple. So what you're going to do every morning when you wake up, you're going to get to your bathroom and you're going to high five yourself in the mirror. And of course, you can say a lot of good things, other good things too. But when you give yourself this high five, you really set yourself up for like this positivity and like, I'm here for you, right? And Mel Robbins often says that you have to develop this relationship with the most important person in your life, and that is you, nobody else. And you have to give yourself a lot of love and cheer yourself on and have self-compassion and positivity. And this is another thing that's really hard to do. Again, if you are letting the bully run the show and the bully tells you that you are not worthy, you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you don't have enough, blah, 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 then you're like, how can I even like change that? But you have to, and really starts with yourself. Don't expect that externally. don't expect your coach or your boyfriend or husband or girlfriend, somebody else to tell you that all the time. You have to be able to give it yourself all the time, right? So cheer yourself on. I listened to this interview with a guy who healed himself from horrendous chronic pain. Like he had body pains all over. And this is called, if there's no like a physical cause for this stuff, it's called TMS, right? Tension myositis syndrome, which is a long story. But basically, your brain and your nervous system are able to create a lot of these types of body conditions where you're hurting all the time. And he was talking about in this interview how he healed himself, and what he did was this constant ongoing showering himself with positivity and nice messages all day long. So it wasn't like, oh, you're doing good today. It was like, oh, I love you. You're awesome. You're really cool. Look what you just did. That's amazing. And it may sound like, oh, that's so fucking fake. But you know what? If you do it enough, you start believing it. You start believing it. And sometimes I do it and I start feeling the effects of it. And it really is like all of a sudden everything's good in the world. And then the bully kind of comes back a little bit and wants to grab your attention, and you give a little attention to it. And because the bully is a stronger habit right now, maybe for most of you, for me, then it doesn't take a lot for the bully to run the show again, but you have to bring yourself back. And when the bully is running the show, the last thing you want to do is like, oh, you're so awesome, Kirsten, let's go. But this is the exact time when you have to give yourself the most self-compassion, the most love, the most like cheering on, and like, hey, let's do this. I got this. You're amazing. You're doing great. And this is how you can retrain your brain. So one really cool thing about your brain is something called neuroplasticity, right? So this means that your brain is moldable. You can change what it's doing. You can change the default patterns and habits that you are not happy with, and you can retrain your brain. And how you retrain your brain is exactly what this whole episode was about. Thinking better things, just like forcing sometimes. It's kind of like fake it till you make it sometimes, to be honest. Choosing to see the positive. This is a choice, right? Write down the positive things that you saw today that made you happy. Use your reticular activating system to your advantage, right? Decide that I'm going to start finding things on the ground all the time, like I showed you with money, right? It does work. Start finding evidence that you are healthy, that you're badass, that you're crushing it. Start looking for evidence, start like attracting it towards you, and you'll get this. So these are the things. I think like these things have made a difference in my life, and I'm still learning all of it. I wish that there was more education around it when we all went to school, but there's nothing like that, at least when I went to school. So I wish that we had something like this that would be actually useful, that we get out of this, the school, education, because I think there's a lot more valuable things that could be in our program compared to what we actually get. At least that's my experience. I don't know how it is for you. Maybe it's different. But these things will really help you. I can promise to you. And literally it is like going to the gym, reps, and then you will get better. And just like with going to the gym, change doesn't happen in 1 week. Change happens after months and months and months and years. And then, like Tracy said too, it becomes a habit. It becomes your conditioned response to be positive, be like happy, be satisfied. Just choose to find joy in these like positive things in your life. All right. How did you like this episode? Do you like it? Should I do more of that type of stuff? I don't talk about it a whole lot, but I do read about it a lot. I'm very interested in the, the things about like brain, how it behaves, how our mind actually dictates everything. I'm super interested in these topics. So if you're interested too and want to hear more, then I'm happy to do a couple of other episodes in the future as well. So thank you so much for being here today. Have a great rest of your day, and see you in the next episode. Take care.